In the grand pantheon of movie monsters, there are few that strike terror into my soul quite like the werewolf. And yeah, even though we've seen this creature hundreds of times on screen over the decades, I still find them to be incredibly creepy and absolutely horrifying. Now, obviously, I love werewolves because as a kid I always wanted to be one, but now that I'm older and hopefully wiser, I realize how absolutely cursed it would be to turn into a giant man-eating wolf every full moon. It's just such an unfair fate, you know? Like, does no one think of the poor guy's feelings when they say beware the moon? No, what a horrible way to go out. I mean, it's better than turning into a vampire, that's for sure. You don't have to deal with garlic and sunlight and your blood turns to glitter and all that fun stuff. But at the same time, it kinda sucks, too. I mean, let's face it, werewolves are scary. They don't get much backstory. We don't really know why they do what they do or where they came from. And sometimes that can add to the creepiness factor. For example, in the 2010 film Werewolf, Curse of the Full Moon, we never learn anything about the beast that's plaguing the small town, only that it's killing people and it looks kind of like a wolf. This ambiguity leaves room for our imaginations to fill in the blanks, which is usually scarier than any explanation an author could come up with. On top of that, werewolves don't get any special powers or abilities. They aren't super fast or super strong. They don't have cool weapons or armor, and they sure as hell can't turn invisible. All they have is their raw animalistic rage, whatever magic they might dabble in, and the fact that they look like something out of a nightmare. There's something about the design of a werewolf that makes them so horrific. Their bodies are covered in thick, dark fur. Their teeth are long and sharp, and their eyes glow a menacing yellow. They're not sleek and elegant like a panther, nor are they mysterious and otherworldly like a vampire. They're big, dumb, baddish beasts that are solely driven by instinct and their overpowering urges to kill. That's why they're so scary. So the question is, are werewolves the most terrifying creatures in cinema? Well, that's tough to say, since there are so many incredible monsters out there. But these wolf-like beings definitely rank up there with some of the best. So today, we've now be taking a look at 5 of the absolute scariest werewolves ever committed to film. So let's jump right into it, shall we? Number 5. The Werewolf from Werewolf. Now, before we get to some of the more famous entries on this list, we gotta talk about one of the most obscure. The film I'm talking about is called simply Werewolf. And I will warn you now, this movie is absolutely brutal and not for the faint of heart. In fact, I wouldn't recommend watching it at all unless you're a fan of ultra-violent splatter films. The acting is bad, the plot is laughable, and the practical effects are straight up disgusting. But the reason I bring it up is because the titular werewolf is truly terrifying. I mean, have you ever seen a werewolf maul somebody and then eat their guts? Yeah, didn't think so. This isn't your average PG-rated Disney movie after all. The entire point of this film is to make you squirm in your seat and look away every couple minutes. And I'd say it does that very well. The werewolf itself doesn't get much screen time, but in the moments that it does appear, it's nothing short of horrifying. Honestly, I couldn't tell you much about the movie itself, but I will never forget the disturbing image of that creature leaping through the forest. No, for the werewolves from An American Werewolf in London. Next up on our list, we have one of the most popular and acclaimed werewolf movies ever made. John Landis's An American Werewolf in London not only revitalized the werewolf genre in the 80s, but it also gave us some of the best special effects ever seen on screen. Look, I could sit here all day and talk about the groundbreaking work Rick Baker did with his werewolf makeup, but I'm not gonna do that. Instead, I'm gonna show you some clips and let you marvel at how insanely detailed and realistic they are yourself. Seriously. These things are so lifelike that you forget you're re-looking at a movie monster and instead imagine that you're re-witnessing a real-life transformation. On top of that, the scene in which David transforms for the first time is incredibly tragic. Usually, when a character turns into a werewolf, they go nuts, killing everyone in sight. But in this case, David is clearly terrified by what's happening to him. It's almost as if he's begging the audience for help, and that's what makes werewolves so frightening. Their complete inability to control themselves once the transformation begins. 3. Dracula. Alright, I lied. We are gonna talk about a famous werewolf. Okay, let's move on to Dracula, 1979, directed by Jesus Franco. This is the first film in the list where the werewolf isn't the main antagonist. Instead, it's just a side quest that occurs halfway through the movie. After being bitten by a mysterious woman, Dracula slowly begins to transform into a werewolf under the full moon. And while it's not as developed as some of the other entries on this list, it's still incredibly cool and fairly terrifying. I mean, seeing Dracula turn into a werewolf is wild. How can a vampire turn into a werewolf? What is this movie voodoo? Regardless, Dracula's transformation is one of the coolest things about the film. His eyes turn yellow, his face becomes distorted and animalistic, and his fangs sharpen to deadly points. By the end of the sequence, he looks like a horrifying mix between a vampire and a wolf. Unfortunately, we don't get to see much of this version of Dracula, because the film is mostly focused on his human form. But honestly, that's kind of what makes him so terrifying. He's only revealed under the full moon, which means that for most of the film we have to imagine what he might look like. Number 2. The Wolfman. How could I do a video on scary werewolves and not mention Lon Chaney? The Wolfman is an iconic monster and one of the most famous faces of Universal's classic horror series. Even though he wasn't the first werewolf ever portrayed on film, he is without a doubt the most influential. When I think of a werewolf, I always picture Lon Chaney's Larry Talbot. Even if I'm thinking of the werewolf from The Company of Wolves or Dog Soldiers, Chaney's portrayal of the Wolfman is so iconic that it has become the standard for all other werewolves to follow. And that's why he's so terrifying. We've seen so many actors take on the role since 1941, but none of them have been able to capture the essence of the Wolfman like Lon Chaney did. There's just something so tragic about his performance that really resonates with audiences even today. And finally, number 1. The Werewolf from The Company of Wolves. There are a lot of great werewolf movies out there, but few of them are as stylish and atmospheric as The Company of Wolves. Angela, a young girl living in a village near a dense forest, begins having nightmares of a big bad wolf who's looking to eat her up. As the story goes on, she meets a mysterious man named Roscuro, who warns her that there's a dangerous beast lurking in the woods. Of course, she doesn't listen and eventually gets kidnapped by the Wolfman himself. What follows is one of the most trippy and surreal werewolf stories ever told, filled with amazing imagery, complex themes, and genuinely terrifying scenes. The Wolfman is easily one of the coolest looking monsters in the film, and when he finally appears, he's so grotesque and imposing that you can't help but be scared. Now, if you're familiar with the film, you probably know that there are actually 2 versions of the beast. The regular one that appears in Angela's dreams and the one that appears in reality. Both are equally terrifying, but I'd say the one that appears in reality is the clear winner. I mean, this thing has huge, gnarly tusks, glowing red eyes, and its fur looks like it's made of knives. Oh, and it eats people. I forgot to mention that. Well, there you have it, folks. Those are 5 of the scariest werewolves in cinema history. Do you agree with my choices? Did I miss any obvious ones? And most importantly, what's your favorite werewolf movie? Throw your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe for more content. Thank you for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful day.